Cat Kramer's films that changed the world. So, thanks. Let's get started. I want to thank our ASL interpreters, Ashley and Dominique. Let's give them a round of applause. Okay, so does everybody have their programs?
Yes.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Once a jolly swag man camped by a billabong under the shade of a coolabah tree, and sang as he watched and waited till his billy boiled. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me, waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. And he sang as he watched and waited till his billy boiled. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. One more time. Waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. And he sang as he watched and waited till his billy boiled. You'll come a waltzing Matilda with me. Ooh, dig that harmony. So I'm going to do a Q&A, and then I'm going to open it up to the audience for questions, and then we'll have the giveaway.
My grandmother's birthday, not the same year, but yeah, and so that gave me a bond, because I never knew him, but you did. So please tell the audience your.
Let's see.
And let's turn that. Is it on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I've seen it many times, but sitting here watching it with you, I said, my God, I have big balls to make a movie like this. Excuse me for saying that, but it was a lot of work. And Colin motivated you to do this kind of work. You know, he was already passed away, and James Rogers, who isn't here, and I said, you know, we should make a documentary. Well, 30 years later, here it is. So, you know, when you're doing it by yourself and just a small crew and editing, you know, which I love to do, but it's meticulous. But the people that were interviewed in the film, that we all went around and got their interviews, and Shirley, Jane, Dolly, Lily, people that really loved him, and you could see that. So he motivated you to do things like that. So I'm really proud that I was able to give him a chance to speak again, and the film will go on, and he'll have a chance to, people will have a chance to see who he really was, and I love that.
It's already won a lot of awards, and you know, we're all hoping for a lot more, because we really need a film like this. It's also very educational for filmmakers and directors and students and just anyone who's an artist and a creative. Now, Brian Higgins, everyone. So eloquently narrated in your brother's voice, you know, and also we're so sorry that Sybil Shepherd was unable to be here today. She was supposed to be here. She's the co-narrator, but she was taken ill this morning, so we're all, you know, praying for a speedy recovery, but she really wanted to be here. And Brian came all the way in from San Francisco for this today. So how many times have you seen the film, and what was the process of recording the narration?
Well, this is about the 4th time I've seen it. The last time was in Sedona at the film festival. We all had a great time there, and it did very, very well. We all, after the film, several of us went out to the hills overlooking the Sedona Mountains, and there was a fiddler there. And I asked him if he knew Waltzing Matilda. And he said, can you give me about 30 seconds? And he found the music, went through a few chords, and I was with my partner and my son's mother, who is in the audience, Sean and Marty Higgins, and I danced with Marty to Waltzing Matilda overlooking these gorgeous Sedona Mountains. And it just brought tears to both of our faces, and later found that one of Nicholas's friends filmed it, so we have film of that. So it was absolutely incredible. I loved it. That was the last time. I've seen it about 4 times in various iterations. Nick, it is so tight. It is so beautiful, and it's so excellently edited. We're just so impressed with your wonderful work.
Thank you.
But narrating, oh my gosh, when I was this is my 3rd picture. But no, I talk about Harold and Maude. I was, my brother and I were on the gurney pushing poor Maude, who had just taken the pills, into the emergency room. That was wonderful. The director, Hal Ashby, wanted Colin to be in that scene. Also, Gary and I were in it. Brother Gary, brother and I, and Brother Barry was the intern taking the notes. So there would have been 4 Higgins brothers in that last scene of Harold and Maude. Had Colin agreed to it, he says, no, it's not about this. It's about, we're trying to do something, Maude's dying body, and we're trying to do shtick, But anyway, we're sort of, we were fortunate, sort of like the Carradines, with so many members of the family that are in the entertainment industry, and God bless them, they are all so talented. Colin got a wonderful break, as I did when Nick asked me to narrate. I didn't think I was that good, but through Nicholas's tutelage and Jim Rogers' script, he made me look so much better and sound so much better than I really was. And you said that I sounded a little like Colin.
Yeah.
There you have it. It was a joy, it's been a privilege, and here we are talking about Brother Colin almost 40 years after he died, which is just a testament to his love and compassion. Thank you.
When I was singing Waltzing Matilda, I was crying, so I couldn't even hit the notes, seriously. Now, Earl, you were so, moving in what you have to say, and I'm sure, knowing Nicholas, that filmed a lot of footage that probably didn't end up in the movie because he had to edit, right? Nicholas will talk about that. Some of the people that didn't make it in but are going to be on the special features, like Dabney Coleman, which you saw before the movie started. What are some of the stories or things you want to share that didn't make it into the film that you remember about Colin?
Well, my time with him was short, even though I knew him through Nicholas before I started training him. But the time was short. By the time I got to him, he was having a relationship with AIDS. But I don't think he knew, and I definitely didn't know. And I saw his vitality was dropping, but not his spirit. He just had this way of there was a time when we couldn't do any real physical work anymore, so we would just walk. And he would talk to me. I was a young man at the time. He would just talk to me about, make sure you save your money. I'm in my mid-20s, maybe late-20s at the time. And he was talking mid-20s, and he's talking to me about saving money. And we would have talks about spirituality, because I think that was around the time he was doing the thing with Shirley MacLaine. And I remember, I didn't think about this until a couple of days ago. When I would go to the Lazar's functions with Nick, my wife and I, we were the only people of color there. Right, Nick? Most of the time, it was a small group of us. And I remember talking to Colin, and I said, you know, I love those arts things, and we were talking about that a little bit. And he says, well, how do you feel about it? And I was trying to explain it, because I didn't grow up around anything metaphysical in that sense. And I said, you know, I'm really interested in African spirituality and philosophy. And he just smiled. And he didn't really comment, but the smile on his face told me that he was thinking. And he said, you should explore that. That's all he said to me. And when he passed, he left me, he gave Nick some of the Lazarus tapes, and I have them. And since that time, I've been to West Africa maybe 20 times, maybe. I've been a lot, and I'm initiated into a traditional African religion. And my last trip, I went there and I prayed for him, because I thought about just that little piece. And I never told Nick this. I just thought about that little piece because it was my 25th anniversary of being initiated last March. And I thought about him. But we never really had a heavy conversation about it. But those are the things I was saying about the dignity, and he was just so kind. So kind. And Nick, I have to say this on behalf that this is what we need to see in Hollywood. Because Hollywood gets a bad rap. And Colin was always kind to me, a gentleman, and he just had this, he cared. He cared. And Nick, you have that also. So the fact that you did this is beautiful. You're a blessing to this city.
Thank you.
You know, Colin's films were also family friendly. They were clean. They weren't, there was no dirty jokes. I mean, for comedy, like My Father Made It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, that I'm sure Colin loved. The timing and just the comedy and the writing, you have to really be funny and really understand comic timing to make a film, make films as he did, or write them and direct them that don't stoop to like lowbrow humor. So that's a testament to him as just a mind and a voice, and his education, so much that he brought. Now David is an amazing composer and songwriter. I'm just give a round of applause. He brought Ty Taylor. He's the one that that we were so blessed to have Ty perform, and he wrote the song with Todd Smallwood, Whoever You Are, which Todd sings, and it's the theme for the movie has already won awards. Wow. But how did you come to be involved with Celebrating Laughter, and how did you come up with that amazing song, and how did that evolve?
Sure. Nicholas and I met 40 years ago. He came to see a musical in Hollywood that my wife Bonnie was in, and he had a friend who was in the show. And that's when we met, and then we started doing projects together. We did Visions of a New World. I think that was the first one. We went to Salt Lake City and scored it with Salt Lake Symphony. And we did the Mary Pickford movie. And in fact, Bonnie sang 2 songs, and she does the opening, Let Me Call You Sweetheart, and that's Bonnie's voice singing it at the beginning. And then after that, then this came about, and I watched Harold and Maude, and I thought, that's the sound, that kind of 70s and 80s and Cat Stevens type of tune. So when Nicholas started editing, I said, okay, I'll write some cues for you to use just to put behind, and we'll see how it works. And I wrote several ones that, just instrumentals, that to me sounded like Cat Stevens kind of songs. And then, I guess Nicholas had said it would be great to get a song, and to actually have a song for the main title and end credit. And I called my writing partner, Todd Smallwood, very, very talented composer also, and he's a lyricist and has a great voice, as you heard. And he took one of the instrumentals and turned it into Whoever You Are. I think it was originally called Whatever You Are, and then we changed it to Whoever You Are. And I just knew right at the very beginning, the first line he came up with, that it was going to work. And it was nice that I think it fits the style of Cat Stevens type of song.
This particular time I saw the film, I mean, his background music, his underscore is so subtle, but it's such a participant in the movie. And it would not be the film it is without his music.
Thank you. My favorite too is the AIDS quilt. That amazing shot.
Yeah.
It just goes on for miles and miles all the way to the Capitol and from the Washington Monument.
It's
And,
beautiful, cute. And we filmed that shot. We went up, they wouldn't let us, but we went up in the top of the Liberty Memorial and got that shot live. It was the only time they laid the quilt out in its entirety.
It's so important to see that now, because we need to keep remembering, and one can forget. We've just been through a pandemic, even though it was different, but it had many of the same elements.
also the Waltzing Matilda, and this is absolutely true. I got the idea of how to reharmonize that folk tune from On the Beach, which was her dad's movie. And Ernest Gold had written a really interesting, he had a main title where he used Waltzing Matilda. And because most of the movie was set in Australia, and that's like the national song in Australia. And Ernest Gold, if you don't know who he is, he did It's a Man, Man, Man World for her dad, and he also, I think his most famous one is he did Exodus. And Small World, he did Exodus, and Leon Uris, who wrote Exodus, then turned it into a Broadway musical called Ari. And my wife at 17 years old was in the chorus of the Broadway musical. So, small world time, but so that gave me the idea of doing a really beautiful reharmonization of Waltzing Matilda to end the movie.
It's so beautiful. I mean, you hear it, but also David sent it to me to listen to, and it rivals Ernest Gold's, I have to say. It's different, but it just has that perfect quality for the movie. Now, before we get into audience questions, I think he's going to wait till after, but Brian has something special he's going to read when we're done with the questions before the giveaway, because that'll lighten up the mood. But Nicholas, we can take some questions first, if that's okay. Sure. How did you, I think I asked this before, but every time I see the film, I think, how did you edit, how did you make the choices? Because it's so seamless, but there's so much in there that you had to cover, even though all of it didn't make it in. And you're gonna put that on the special features.
Yeah.
What was the most challenging aspect? Like what parts? That really are also that moved you, because what I love about it is that it's got the humor and the entertainment value, and then it hits you, which is what I try and always have a film that that has the social issues after you've gotten the audience engaged.
Yeah, I like the little bits where people can laugh, because a documentary is so hard to sit through anyway. So you've got to have the laughs to carry you through, And it's funny, I have a process where I just sit alone in the editing room, and the film kind of talks to me. It's kind of, I hear, it's kind of like voices from the other side, and somehow it just goes in the right place, but you have to have a lot of patience for the little small things. But You know, there's a lot that should maybe be out, a lot should be in, but it does give, you know, all the aspects and the complete, you know, smorgasbords of what Colin Higgins was. I mean, you know, it goes from and putting his childhood in and everything. And I thought Brian was great. I really had to work with this character over here. But Ken's also professional. And I think if you've seen my other documentary about Mary Pickford, I have her co-narrate, and I went through like something like 35 audio interviews. I never met her. Of her life, and I EQ'd them and edited them, and she narrates half the movie.
Wow.
You know? So when you conquered that patience, you know. But it was hard to do Colin because I knew him as a friend, so it was tough, you know, doing.
Well, I'm just going to announce here, because we're talking about this, but I have Sheroes for Change Festival coming up. Some people in the audience are filmmakers that will be part of that. And I'm going to also screen Mary Pickford because it's such an amazing movie. It's such a great portrait of her. And that's how I first got to know Nicholas, was on that film. But he worked with my father. Nicholas did Stanley Kramer's final film, The Runner Stumbles, and his relatives worked on Mad World and On the Beach. And so all this is just, you know, so many connections that are spiritual beyond just the movie itself.
Yeah, her father, I was really lucky to know him through some editors that hired me on his film. And Ernest Gold was so funny, so I have stories about Stanley and Ernest Gold and everything. But that's another Q&A.
So does anyone here have any comments they want to make, or something you want to share that's relevant to
Colin Higgins before I open it up for questions?
Well, I just wanted to say to Brian that, you know, this time I feel like it's really Colin speaking when I hear your narration. You know, it's just blended into. You did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you so much.
I want to just thank Ty Taylor for
Yeah, that was amazing.
killing that song.
And, you know, Val playing the film has the pictures of Colin seeing a double feature here, but part of it was filmed. In fact, at the end of that song, which was written by Charles Fox, who's part of our host committee, but the song, you know, when Goldie's driving and she ends up, it's here, so we're actually in the theater.
Yeah.
And they did a great job.
Right back there in the old seats.
And it's such a testament, though, to Hollywood and films, you know, that we don't, it's a different world today with filmmaking. And do you feel, you have once said that this movie is not for the people in it, but it's for everyone else. And this is really a people's movie. But can you talk a little bit about why you feel that is, that it's, you know, they bear their heart and soul on camera to you, and then that it's really a gift to everybody else?
Well, I sort of gave that up. I've been trying to reach Goldie Hawn for 5 years, and she hasn't seen herself in this movie. And isn't she great? And Jane hasn't seen it, and Lily hasn't seen it. Dolly's seen it, of course. She became honorary. But it just, I guess it's not for that. It's for you people. It's for, you know, they'll see it eventually. We hope to get it on the Academy screening site. And they can be in their PJs and put their feet up and watch it.
That's what we're doing. And you know, Lily and Jane wanted to be here today, but they're in San Diego at some fundraiser. So this would have been an amazing day, but they're all on the host committee. Shirley MacLaine, her book changed my life, Out on a Limb. I read it when I was a kid, and then the mini-series, and she's shooting on location. So, you know, to have a historical day like this at the NuArt, and also dedicating to Dabney Coleman, you know, it's not gonna happen every day. This is a really special screening of this movie. And I know there'll be more, but it's not gonna be the same as this, so you're all very lucky that you're here today.
And people work at separate times, like Brian did his narration when he flew down, and Sybil did hers separately. So they were going to meet together, the co-narrators are going to meet each other for the first time face to face. But then she got sick, so.
I missed a chance to meet my co-narrator, Sybil Shepherd.
I don't know where Colin was. This was
Also, a big shout out and a big thanks to Sybil. She couldn't be here. She really wanted to be here today, and something in the nature of an emergency came up and she couldn't be here. But also I wanted to mention James Rogers, who was the trustee of the Colin Higgins Foundation, who made this possible with his funding today.
Yes, this is sponsored by the Colin Higgins Foundation, and they have the grantees are going to be at the Frameline Film Festival in San Francisco next month.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, that's where they're shepherded. So Colin really has a legacy that continues on and on. And what you see in the movie, some of them have been like rebranded, but it's happening right now. And it couldn't have come at a better time, to have this today. So, any burning questions?
Yes.
Right there.
I want to compliment you, Nicholas, on the film. It's just wonderful. And Brian, on your narration, I mean, I had to keep reminding myself that I'm not listening to Colin saying these words, that it's his brother. But that also makes me wonder, as a sibling myself. You're reading from passages, I think, from his diary in some cases. When you go through his diary, or when you've gone through his materials that he's left behind, I know he has that big archive at UCLA, but something like a diary that's so personal, what did you learn about him that maybe you didn't know before, and also that gave you a new understanding of him?
Wow, well, I'm, this channel that Shirley MacLaine and he worked with Lazarus, and Earl mentioned him. He willed me his private consultations with Lazarus, and hardly none of them are in the film. But I've been listening to them, and I'm just in the part where he's helping him die of AIDS, and I can't seem to listen to those last few things. But Jim, unfortunately, had a back problem and he had to leave, but he wrote the narration from Colin's, well, actually, those aren't diaries, those are published and articles that he wrote, and that's how he wrote the narration that he. So it's actually, you're saying Colin's words on top of sounding like Colin,
All
So-
written by Jim Rogers.
Yeah, so he put that together, but he didn't really write the narration because they're Colin's words as well. So I don't know how exactly to answer your question, but most of that stuff is at UCLA still, that we use.
Yes, right there.
I also want to compliment you. Bravo to all of you. Thank you. Here, I'm going to take this off. Thank you for making a film that celebrates that you can be kind in Hollywood, that you can be good to each other. I have many affinities. I thought I knew a lot about Colin Higgins. You taught me so much more about a man I've admired since I was a little girl, and Anne Roth was my godmother, so I sort of had a peripheral connection. But this is the magic that one person who's a great artist with great intentions can do. And thank you for showing that. And it's ironic that it was right up against The Godfather, which in my mind I cite as the toxic nexus of so much filmmaking. It let Paramount know that people wanted violence and immorality in a way that they then leaned into. And our culture has leaned that way, and we've now got Trump. And people like Colin Higgins, who is fighting for the goodness in people and the dignity in people. And if we tell stories like that, what kind of world could we have? And thank you for honoring AIDS in the way that you did. We lost so many great people, and thank you for that.
Yeah, that's beautiful, yeah.
Thank you.
And I am going to, when I get a hold of it, if I ever meet Francis Ford Coppola, he doesn't know it's his fault.
It is. He did good things through the conversations, genius, but it was a terrible thing for our culture.
In the back.
Right, about 6 or 7 months ago, I had the pleasure of seeing the stage version of Harold and Maude at GRT in the Valley. And he really did a wonderful job of expanding it and making it even more meaningful and more poignant in the stage version. And they did a wonderful production of it. And
Where was it?
At GRT
Wow.
in the Valley. And I was just wondering if you had any thoughts about, had he not died young, what would he might have gone on to do, and how would he be?
Well, he's working with
in Hollywood today.
He's working with Ruth Gordon and Hitchcock in heaven now. I don't know what it is. But
Mr. Higgins has
something you wanted to read?
Well, I have to answer.
Yeah.
A few questions first, and then we're going to do that.
All right.
And that's going to end the Q&A, so it's gonna be like a sermon. Sky.
I was a kid when a lot of these films came out, and so I've seen a few of them and not all of them, and it just, I learned so much as an artist, an actor, a filmmaker, a writer, just watching this, and I agree with everything everybody has said, so it's really important and inspiring and brought me to tears. And as a filmmaker, my question is, when did you actually start the process of putting together everything and going, I'm going to make this documentary? And then the age of technology, when you guys started making films to where we are now digitally, how was the process of transforming all that footage and getting everything up to par to be such a beautifully shot and complete film with old footage?
That's a really good question. Is Steve Cohen still here, Steve? Yeah, this is my avid consultant here. He and Steve and I worked on Foul Play together. And I was back in, 35 millimeter and splicing and everything. So when I started this, when Colin's memorial service, that's that footage that we said, oh, this is too great. We have to do a documentary around this. So we started, a week after he passed away. And since I was in the habit, I went through 7 different transformations of technology on this film. And it's really cool because it was shot in really old style, But if it hadn't been for
like
Cap,
8 millimeter and all the different
it's all
Genesis.
transferred. But not to bore the audience with all those things, but it was task, and I must have a shout out to Kappa Studios, who's in Burbank. They upgraded this to, they did an upgrade to 16:9 and helped it, and it's alive in the modern version thanks to them. And it was daunting. And I want to say one thing about your Harold and Maude on the stage. It's been in so many languages and so many countries, already. And we went to France, and filmed that with her, Lynn Renaud. And it's wonderful that it's lived its own life on the stage and it started as a movie.
Yeah.
So it's great that you saw it, yeah. It's great.
How many different languages is it in?
I think they said, I'm so bad with facts.
15.
16,
Yes.
16.
Yeah.
I thought it was 16.
14, 15, so I'd like to see the Japanese version.
Any chance for reimagining in maybe a different language? That would be something to see.
A lot of people want to remake the movie, and there's been a lot of talk about that.
What about the remake of 9 to 5?
That's in the works. Jennifer Aniston just recently announced that she's producing it, and Diablo Cody is writing the screenplay.
That might be.
And that's been several different, trying to get it made, but I don't know if anyone from the original movie's involved. I just know about that.
Well, I found my crew jacket from 9 to 5. It has Nicholas on it. So I took a picture and I sent it to Dolly and I said, I've already got the crew jacket.
I want to be in it too.
Yeah.
Nicholas was the animation supervisor on as you can see, the Snow White. So can you talk a little bit about, because that's just, the movie was already great, but that really made it a classic. You don't see that ever in movies hardly, and that just became so memorable.
We hand painted, we did the old style wall, we hand painted 14,000 cells with a crew of 8 people and 3 animators just for that 3-minute sequence.
Wow.
But I was gonna say, I have about 1,500 cells under my bed right now.
Oh my God.
I think we're gonna bring it up. But no, that was a highlight, even though I did all the sound work on 9 to 5.
Oh.
Doing these animated sequences is really a highlight. It's magical, little 3-minute sequence.
Does anybody have any questions for these 3 gentlemen? Right there.
You know me, Kat.
Oh, yes.
It's actually for Nicholas, though. Did you have any obstacles licensing the footage from the films?
Pardon me, what?
Did you have any
Obstacles,
obstacles?
did everybody hear the question? Did you have any licensing obstacles with all the clips from the various films?
You have to license them? Nobody told me.
There is fair use.
Yeah, there is fair use. We got about 90% clear. The other 10%, don't know what to talk about.
Right there, yeah.
Who are the animators that did the animation? You mentioned 3 animators.
Yeah, Fred Helmick, Lee Mishkin, and somebody Norton. I'm really bad at remembering names. They're terrific. They were amazing. Yeah, Fred did Winnie the Pooh. And I have all the pencil tests too. We start out with pencil tests. In fact, I have a video that goes from pencil tests all through the processes to the final piece.
Were any of them Disney animators?
Yeah, Fred was. He did Winnie the Pooh, and they all did things. And then Fred worked on, it's been a while, it's since 1980, you know. I wasn't prepared for that, for that answer. But Fred Helmick did some great stuff. I mean, he was, Google him.
Okay.
Also, Earl, I just wanted to ask for the pictures of you, and you decided not to pursue acting, right? Because you did have the look, you do have the look, and it just suddenly hit me that I think Colin talked you out.
He did.
I did do a few very low budget. I was blessed to do a few things. If you stay up late at night, you'll see. But no, yeah, I did do a few things maybe in the early 90s, low budget martial arts type films. But yeah, and I did thank Colin for that here. You know, when I was working on a few films, yeah. So.
And we had a mutual, Mark Dacascos.
Yes.
Say he was a great actor.
If you guys watch the John Wick movies, I think it was John Wick 3 or 4. He played a character called Zero. And it was my martial arts teacher's friend. That's how Nick and I met.
Yeah.
Back in the 80s at an aerobic defense studio. That's how we
Mark
met.
was there.
Yeah.
There's a question there.
Hi, first of all, I want to thank you so much for this presentation. And the piece, I found it extremely moving, especially with regards to the AIDS epidemic and what his activism. The time I spent with Colin Higgins was brief, and I was 22 and I was in the Whorehouse movie, and I was very scared. I was extremely frightened. I was a young kid amongst all these incredible dancers and performers, and Colin had singled me out to have some lines. And in that instance, it's such a large set like that is so overwhelming and frightening. And Colin was the voice of calm and center and peace for me during that. And I always held him in the highest regard for that, because it really settled me. What you've shown here in this piece, to me, is that person. It comes through the film. And I'm so glad that that I'm here today to witness this, because it's just remarkable. And I think of all the guys and the times. I know the young Nicholas is still within my brain and my thoughts. And yes, so many of the guys passed away of AIDS. You know, a lot of times when I look at the film, it's like a memorial to them, because you know it was a wonderful, intimate time. Anyway, I just wanted to thank you and congratulations on it, all of you. It's a wonderful, wonderful.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for coming. There's also some other people here today. Cynthia Leah Clark, who was in Out on a Limb. And we try to get as many people that had worked with Colin or knew him to be here. So if there's no other questions, last chance, because Brian's going to read something.
Yay, Brian!
Microphone?
Well, thank you all so very much for coming today. Yes, if you don't mind. That'd be great, yeah. This film and this event are all a part of getting to know my brother Colin. I would like to share with you, as our closing thoughts, this poem written by Colin when he was in his 20s. The poem has been an inspiration to our family, and I'm happy to share it with you today. It's called Insight Number 3. I saw a weed growing in the forest, and beside it, a cute little tree. I praised the tree for its verdant foliage. I called the weed an ugly son of a bitch. Feeling in a conversational mood, I have invited them to respond. I am a tree growing in the forest, said the little tree. I am a weed growing in the forest, said the weed. The brook giggled in the background. Is that it? I asked. The little tree said nothing. Have a nice day, said the weed. And I walked off with a lesson in neutrality. Colin Higgins. Thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you. I'm going to start, I do like a little trivia giveaway contest for It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, because there's so many diehard fans, and then there's a lot of new generations seeing it. And I always find out that the diehards know the answers. So when Nicholas won Best Documentary at the Hollywood Reel Independent Film Festival, I was there doing a giveaway for 2 Dolly Parton items that were just amazing, her Rockstar CD and the baking kit. But I believe Dolly ran out of those. So Lily Tomlin, because she was supposed to be here, she hadn't had to go out of town, and she's been so supportive of my cinema series, and she said, I feel so badly I can't be there, but I'm going to give you something you can use for the giveaway. So I'm going to ask questions. I have 2 prizes, and I think what I'm going to do is, let me figure out how I'm going to do this, because usually I only have 1. It should be whoever guesses the right answer for both questions gets both prizes, but I might just do 1 for each. I think that's fair. What do you think?
1 for each.
So the first prize is The Search for Signs of Intelligent Life in the Universe DVD, the movie version signed by Lily Tomlin and her partner who also wrote it, Jane Wagner.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. There's all kinds of great things on here. I know there's people in the audience that may already have it, but not a signed copy. So, since we were honoring Dabney Coleman, what's another movie that Lily Tomlin acted opposite Dabney Coleman and Dolly Parton also made a cameo in it?
Beverly Hillbillies?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Somebody knows.
I don't even remember that.
Come on down.
I'll come back now, you hear?
Wow.
Thank you.
I come down, but.
Congratulations.
I was just watching Dabney Coleman and Dragnets. So good at Dragnets.
Those are rare items. Yeah, I'm glad you won. Let's see, what's a really hard question? This one's probably too easy for those who know 9 to 5. But Violet gets a gift for Mr. Hart's wife that doesn't end up going to her, it ends up with Dora Lee. But what was the item? Oh, right there, a scarf. Yes, is that what you
That was really easy.
So you've won the play version of Search for Signs of Intelligent Life in the Universe. and it's been reissued, signed by Lily Tomlin and Jane Wagner. These are rare items. Thank you. Thank you, Lily. Thank you. I'm sorry, Scott.
That's it?
Okay,
No
so
more
that's
prizes?
it, unless, if anyone has one last question for anyone up here they've been thinking of, it's a wrap.
Yay!
They'll be hanging out in the lobby if you have